All right, everybody, how's it going? This is Cheech from the Cheech and Manny Show, and we have a special show tonight. This is a part of the Esoteric Hour, and this is called the Bible Files. So, we're going to be talking about some characters from the Bible with some esoteric abilities and some just, regular people from the Bible. And Manny being the scholar and the expertise on the Bible, I'm going to stump the trunk, I think, today. How's it going, Manner?
Dude, man, life is good, brother. All thanks to the Almighty. A little joke, speak of the devil. No, I'm kidding, but
Yeah.
yeah, thanks to God Almighty, life is good. Thank you, Padre Pio. I
Oh,
think he's our intercessory saint.
yeah,
Um,
just to give a little backstory on how this came up. We did not plan this. This
no,
was planned for us. I called Manny yesterday, uh, just to call, say what's up. We maybe talk about our shows that we're going to be doing,
yep,
and then I had the Padre Pio show that I wrote. For those of you who don't know him, he's a saint and a miraculous saint. And we started to talk about him, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere, I started coming up with these ideas, throwing out these biblical names and terms, and
A- and that
yeah,
Padre Pio episode's coming. But
yeah.
now we want well, that's coming. But now this took over, and we just got on a roll.
It was like this was like came through us. I swear to God, it was not like planned. A force made this episode about to happen. You
Yeah,
know. So so thank you, Force. Padre
thank you.
Pio.
True force.
Yes. But all right. So I know we don't have a lot of time. We're gonna start it off, and it's gonna be the Bible Files.
Yeah, it's like a take on just a little funny. Should I not spoil the hidden.
Yeah, no,
I'll leave. I'll leave
yeah,
it.
yeah. It's going against it's like the Satan Files. We'll call that one.
The
um,
Satanic Files,
yeah.
the Satanic Verses, man.
Oh yeah, remember that movie? Holy shit. Okay. Wow. Um, so we're gonna just talk about people from the Bible. So the first person on the list is John the Baptist.
Hmm.
And they've always been fascinated with John the Baptist
Hmm.
because of obviously because being connected to Jesus,
Yeah,
but the Knights Templar put him ahead of Jesus.
yeah.
They
It's
wor
cool,
they worshipped him more.
and it's funny because if you want to give some detail with the Knights Templar aspect
Yeah.
of it, because that's odd, because most Christians and Catholics put obviously Jesus first. And
Yeah.
John the Baptist himself is quoted in the Gospels as saying that, I am just preparing the way. The one that comes after me is going to do works more mightier than myself.
Yeah.
The Knights Templar, like, what is up with that?
I don't know. I think my theory is they had his head
Mm.
because they had stables underneath what would have been Solomon's temple. Um, and that's where their stables were. And they started to do digging and digging and digging and digging, and they found so much shit underneath there that they went to the Pope and basically, I don't know if they blackmailed them, but they got an order. You Depians got an order called the Templars. So I think they had the head of John the Baptist. This is rumored, and they would worship it, and they always put him, up there as the number one guy. Of
Mm.
course, Jesus was the number one guy to them because they were monks. They had to take the vows and everything. But for
Mhm.
some reason, he was very special to them. Maybe because of the the knowledge that John the Baptist might have had being.
Right.
When I'm going to bring this, I don't want to spoil it, but
Right.
being in the scene in the Dead Sea
Right,
Scrolls,
right.
and in the
And,
the
and before you
the
head into there, like
yeah,
John the Baptist is one of the most, and people don't really, it's funny because most Christians and people that, whatever, spiritual, religious, they don't realize how mysterious truly John the Baptist is.
oh yeah, yeah,
He is so mysterious, and you really have to think about what on earth he was trying to do. Um, and it's funny because I can see why the Templars, like, I'm obsessed with John the Baptist myself.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And I have another brother who recently has experienced this sort of like the spiritual awakening, and he John the Baptist, man, he's for some odd reason he's the one that we're gravitating towards too. Not for me. I always quote when I teach John the Baptist, I always quote it by saying, "Poor John the Baptist," because
yeah,
he's so mysterious, and what his fate, what awaits him, is kind of tragic in a way, and he comes out of nowhere too. I mean, if you don't know the context, you mentioned the Essenes, but you would have to understand outside the Bible.
yeah, yeah,
And we're going to be mentioning the Dead Sea Scrolls. But yeah, I just want to mention like it's so mysterious. Um, and we'll dive more into this dude who, by all accounts, looked like your homeless person that like bothers you for like 5 cents.
yeah, yeah. He had a loincloth on, ran around in the desert, preaching
Mhm.
his preach, that the Messiah is coming. He always preached that. I mean, did he come out and say Jesus was the Messiah, or did he say the Messiah is coming?
No, he never. No. So what happened was, when he started baptizing people in literally in the Father, Son, Holy Spirit.
Yeah,
I baptize you. He would, and that's why he got his nickname John the Baptizer.
right.
I like the Spanish San Juan Bautista. So
Yeah,
it's John Baptist. So that's how he got his fame. He was starting to prepare people for the coming of the Messiah, which he preached is coming. I'm just preparing the way. I'm making the path narrow and straight as he preached.
right.
When he saw, and this is also another mysterious thing, when he saw Jesus, he it said in the Gospels that this is the Lamb of God. He immediately told everybody, now you are going to follow him, not me.
Now, did they meet as children? Because and then the other fact,
That's another mystery, but that's another mystery
were
because
they cousins too?
yeah, and okay, so let's start with the children part. Okay, we don't know.
Yeah,
And it's funny because if you follow the Gospels, it kind of seems like John looks at this dude, Jesus, and says, "Wait, he's here." He like, if he would have known him before, wouldn't you have think he'd be like, hey, "Okay,
yeah, yeah,
come on
yeah, yeah.
down, come on." No, Jesus comes, and he also comes strangely out of nowhere, and apparently John the Baptist, this is it. This is the Messiah, and
Yeah.
he was ready to be baptized by him.
Right,
And Jesus instead asks John, "No, you are to baptize me." And
right, right,
John's like, "I can't do that. You have to baptize me."
right, right.
And so, kind of, but what's really odd is that that's the first time I think that John recognized this was Jesus. And so there's a mystery there because there is um another thing interesting is the cousin connection.
Yeah,
Now, and we talked about this where, in my opinion, it's odd. They're not cousins like we would think of normally.
right,
So apparently, this family, Mary's family, there's something special, and I think it's pretty obvious, but
right.
there's something special in this family that God chose these women,
Yeah,
and pretty much God places. Now, again, John is not the biological son of Zechariah. Like, I hope people don't make that mistake. God put that boy in there, that baby, that seed.
right. Yeah,
Jesus, and that's his son. Joseph is not the biological father.
right.
And so, are they cousins? And it's interesting because then it's like it would make sense why John probably didn't run into Jesus until that moment at the River Jordan.
Well, now, was Mary connected to John the Baptist's mother?
Yes. So Elizabeth was, I think, through her one of her parents, I think it was like the aunt. Um because when we start, let me try to think here. I think he was the aunt um to Mary. So what ends up happening, okay, so Elizabeth and husband Zechariah, right?
Yeah,
You know what's funny? No, they were cousins to Mary. So that would have been either Mary's mom or dad's sister's kids, right? That's a
right,
cousin.
right.
Yeah. So Elizabeth was a descendant of Aaron. So I don't know if, Aaron from
Yeah,
uh,
the tribe of
the tribe of Levi.
yeah,
And Zechariah was a priest of the temple.
right,
So yeah, so they were kind of cousins.
yeah,
So in that family, so Mary in this bloodline. Now, what's
right.
fascinating there is, so in a way, with Mary, there is a blood connection with um Elizabeth.
Okay.
Okay.
So in a sense, they were cousins, in a, like Jesus and John the Baptist,
No, no. Well, you know what's funny? Yes, I would say so. Yeah, but the only odd part is that the person that planted the seed was not the fathers. It was God.
right, right. It was God.
So if
Yeah,
anything, yeah, they're related in that divine, godly sense.
right, right. But they never met each other until that day
I think
when
that's what
Jesus
it sounds
baptized
like.
them.
Yeah.
There's no evidence.
Hmm.
That's the mysterious part of all that. Like the life of Jesus before 33.
Yep.
From 30 to 33, we know about Jesus. John the Baptist, we don't know much about,
Yeah,
which
and that
we're gonna get into.
right. And
A
that's what
little bit.
makes him, and that's what makes him very mysterious. But if you put the pieces together, you will realize a few. And I'm not gonna, unless you ask me, like you'll realize um, that yes, they were related in what we would say, like
Oh God, I just I don't even just saw the text.
Jesus.
Joe just sent a text.
That's my, what do you say?
You read it when you get a
Yeah,
chance.
man, he's teasing you, man. That is hilarious. Attica,
I
Attica,
know, I know, Joe. I get it. Annika, Annika,
Attica.
Annika. Saint
Uh,
Annika. So tell me about Saint Annika and how she made this band Rush become. Anyway,
yeah, so I argue they're not really cousins in what we think of, and they are miraculous births. They're miracles.
yeah,
If anything, they come from the family of God, and God chose these women to allow them to first give birth to the last prophet. So according to the Christian Bible, John the Baptist is the last prophet. There are no more. And then Jesus, his son, is truly the last one. That's it, because
right.
Jesus is prophet, priest, and king. And all
Coming from that whole line
right.
of
And from the
prophets.
right. So again, like even though they were family, they weren't cousins like we would think of.
Yeah,
Something
yeah,
else
yeah.
completely different. And it's really in God's eyes like strange. And that
Right.
makes John the Baptist mysterious. Yeah, other than that, we don't really know after the accounts of his birth, we don't really know much except what we're going to be mentioning pretty soon.
Yeah. And age. They don't never. I mean, they know Jesus is 33. They estimate that, or is that proven? You
No,
think?
no, no, that's proven. It's um that's proven.
Okay. So John the Baptist, what would he roughly have been?
So he would have been actually in my opinion, he would have been like almost the same year as Jesus. 30 if anything the same age.
33.
Yep, maybe a
Maybe
little
at the
older.
same time they were planted
Yep.
in their moms. But
Yeah.
there's no record of that. It doesn't give. Like John the
No.
Baptist is so mysterious. Like in the Bible, it just talks about him being the guy in the desert and then what gets beheaded and baptizes Jesus. He doesn't have a backstory.
Well, actually he does with Elizabeth. And how remember how Mary goes to Elizabeth when Mary gets pregnant and in the womb, John feels the womb of Mary and he starts leaping inside of Elizabeth.
Well, I don't remember that part.
Oh yeah, so
Wow.
this is where you need the religion person.
Yeah.
Uh yeah, dude, there's a little backstory. So he's technically a little bit older, but they were both roughly around 33. 33 if
Okay.
any. Yep.
But so when he was born, we don't know much about him.
His childhood. What exactly
Like
happened?
we do know a little bit about Jesus's childhood. Did he healed animals and things like that as a child?
Oh no, no, that's completely from the
Uh,
Gnostic text. So
okay.
that's a whole
See,
other.
I forgive me if I get my Gnostics.
No, and Jesus is very similar to John. We know his infancy, We know a little bit of the odd things where, for example, Mary and Joseph lose him when I think he was like 7 years old.
Oh, he was preaching at the temple.
Yeah, they lost him in Jerusalem. They had to go find him, and they found him in the temple. And the leaders there were astounded at what this kid was teaching.
Right, right, right. Okay, yeah, that I remember. I remember that. And then that's about it, really, for
And
Jesus
after that's it,
until
yeah.
he's 30. Okay. So got the age and John the Baptist. Now, the fact that he lived in the desert and he preached, is there a chance he was a part of the sect, the Essenes?
Right. And that's another mystery. A lot of people have argued that that's possible. And why? Because of his lifestyle.
Yeah,
So the Essenes, which I guess we should talk about the Dead Sea Scrolls.
yeah.
So at that time, I don't know how much you know about the Old Testament history and like the 12 tribes, the North Israel kingdom versus South Judah. So at this point, the Jewish religion that we call it, they would we call the sons of Israel.
Yeah.
Um, they were broken up by different groups that interpreted things differently. You had the Pharisees who had control of the temple,
Mhm.
and they had a high priest. So they had control of the Jerusalem temple. The Sadducees, who were King Herod Antipas supporters
Mhm.
in Rome. I was not everybody, but they were, and also these two interpreted the Bible differently. And then finally, in the wilderness, in the mountains, you had the Essenes,
Right.
and they would sort of resemble today's priests in terms
Yeah.
of the Catholic Church. So and what's interesting is John's lifestyle. So he was living in the wilderness, fasting, and by the way, eating only locusts and wild honey.
Yeah.
And that's because they were forbidden to eat anything that died. So think about it. He was eating actually live locusts.
Right.
Um, and fasting and ritual bathing, ritual cleansing and purification were essential. And so this was the same lifestyle that the Essenes practiced, who were a strict Jewish sect, who and their groups in caves they found the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Right.
And again, his diet of locusts and honey and clothing, he made that famous camel hair robe. Um,
So it's leaning like he was a Essene.
It was, but the only problem is that the Essenes didn't do that camel hair stuff, but they they did practice the asceticism.
Right.
But it's uncertain. But there's a lot of people who have kind of entertained that theory that he was in a scene, and especially because the way he preached was one of apocalypse that the Messiah is coming.
Right, right. You think he might have been in his scene and he branched off into his
Could,
own?
could be possible, and that would be because of his. Because again, and they, it's funny in the Old Testament. Remember Samson?
Yeah,
They took on the Nazarite vow. So God made him do this where he was not supposed to cut his hair
right,
and he couldn't touch nor eat anything that's dead.
right, right.
And so that kind of seems very similar to what the Canesians kind of did. The only difference is that instead, John, it's said that he began eating locusts
Yeah,
and again made that clothes out of camel hair because again they were forbidden to touch anything that was dead. So
right.
obviously camel hair goes back. So and
That's so fascinating.
it's
Wow.
interesting. Yeah. So could he have differed? And that would make sense because John the Baptist was already chosen by God to make
Yeah,
the make the path straight for his son, if that makes
right,
sense. So he was baptizing thousands of people in the Jordan. He reached so much fame that word got to King Herod Antipas of his fame, and people thought that he was the new prophet Elijah. So
right, right.
Elijah, they kept calling him, "You are Elijah reincarnated." So yeah,
Well,
that's what makes him so mysterious. Is it possible that as a child that he was in the Essene sect, and then obviously because the Essenes were already jumping ahead and doing the stuff that a Catholic priest does and Catholic nuns do today,
yeah,
back in those days that did not exist. And they were following the practices of the Old Testament prophets.
right. Now, is it possible he or Jesus? Now, let me see. Could John the Baptist have been the teacher of righteousness?
Right. And I
Or
guess
or could Jesus have been too? You know what I mean? I always quite wondered about that.
No, and yeah, that's an interesting thing. With and I guess we should talk about the Dead Sea Scrolls because that's
Yeah,
where we kind of get. I don't know if you want to start that or you still want to
yeah.
stay on this.
No, we well, it kind of intertwines
Yep.
because like the teacher of righteousness would have written the Dead Sea Scrolls pretty much. But he would have wrote right or when he have written them down, or he had a lot to do with the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Mhm.
So Jesus, I don't think would have been the teacher of righteousness because he was preaching.
Well, no, not yet.
So he could have been in the
Ah,
Essenes, and
he-
he could have been writing in the
Right. But what's
in his
weird, then that
introduction.
means if John the Baptist was in the Essenes, why didn't he recognize him already?
Exactly.
That
So
doesn't make any
that
sense.
doesn't work. So I'm gonna say John the Baptist definitely has more of a linkage to the Essenes
Hmm.
than Jesus. And maybe John the Baptist is the teacher of righteousness. And he did explain the Dead Sea. Like what did the teacher of righteousness do for the Essenes?
Yeah, so essentially he's sort of like you know how you have Lao Tzu and the Tao?
Yeah, yeah,
So he's the dude that founded this community.
right.
The only problem is that we don't exactly know who he is. And I
Yeah.
guess just one more, I guess from a historical perspective, it can't be John the Baptist or Jesus because he would, if it's true, he would have existed 200 years before Jesus. Um, so, but we don't know who he is.
So the teacher of righteousness is way before
Hmm.
Jesus and oh okay. All right. I always thought maybe it was around the same time.
But you know what's funny? It's so mysterious because he was seen as a messianic figure. So I don't know who this was. And again, he ends up becoming, he finds this community. And he's mentioned in the Dead Sea Scrolls. And so the mystery is who exactly is this guy that
Yeah.
founded this order that were their purpose was to prepare for the coming of the Messiah. Be ready. Like that was their purpose.
Yeah, yeah.
So who he was, we're not exactly sure. And then what we're
Uh,
referring to is a conceptual, maybe mythical figure.
And the Essenes were still around when Jesus was
Hmm.
alive.
Yep.
Would they have met Jesus?
I would believe so, yeah.
He would have preached with them or prayed with
Yeah.
them. Okay. But he didn't live the life did he live the lifestyle like them? Like eating the locusts and the honey? Or
Jesus?
did yeah.
Dude, mystery. We we don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
And
yeah.
obviously he ate the Last Supper, right? But it doesn't mention exactly what Jesus ate.
Yeah,
Only
yeah,
John the
yeah.
Baptist.
Right. Okay. So it's so mysterious. So the teacher of righteousness is 200 years.
About if you follow the historians. Now, if you want to get esoteric, was it was it Jesus before Jesus was a thing? For example, you have Melchizedek in the Old Testament that spoke to Abraham. He is mysterious. We don't even know who this dude is.
Wow.
Melchizedek. He's another one. And actually, we find out that Jesus is a priest in the priestly class of Melchizedek. So, what does that mean, dude? This teacher of righteousness, was it Jesus before Jesus? Was it a John the Baptist before John the Baptist? I mean, dude, I mean, this is esoteric stuff, but
And there's no proof of his life or death.
no, only what's mentioned in the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Right.
And it's funny because the Essenes, when you look at how you compare them to the Pharisees and Sadducees, they were, first of all, reclusive. They believe in being in the wilderness and not being part of the sinful,
Yeah.
they remove themselves. And they lived during the time of Jesus. What's mysterious, though, that they're not mentioned in the New Testament, but I will tell you, this makes sense because Luke was a Greek. He wouldn't have known this. John, maybe, but John was more your average Jewish person.
Right. Right.
he was the son and of James, and he's mentioned. Matthew was a Jewish tax collector, but obviously being rich, he probably followed the, if he did, the Pharisee order.
Yeah,
And finally, you have Mark. Mark is another interesting. Now, I think he might have been maybe in a scene. Mark,
Mark. What?
either
Why?
that, either that, or you because just because Mark, if you there's a lot of mystery of who exactly Mark was, and there's a theory that Jesus actually was housed by the Essene community in Jerusalem. And the house where
Right.
he celebrates the Last Supper in the upper room was an Essene house.
Oh. Oh,
And
really?
yeah, so and by the way, don't fact check me. This is something that I kind of came across. And also, Mark was a companion of Peter. And so, and there's a lot of, and it is a fun theory to entertain, but so with these people, the scenes, it makes sense why they weren't mentioned in the New Testament. Now, the only problem is that this sect completely faded away after the destruction of Jerusalem, 70 years after Jesus. They're
Okay.
gone. They're gone. So, and it's funny, they saw themselves
Could
all,
they have branched out into
no, they were still,
Gnostic?
well, you know what? Maybe, but I would say not quite because well, actually, maybe some of them. It could be very possible. Could be
Oh.
very possible.
Maybe some of them went over to Egypt and,
But
wrote
uh,
the Nag Hammadi.
I
You
will
know,
say that's assuming the Romans left them alive.
that's a good point.
The
That's a
Romans, dude, the Romans wiped them out, and you can argue they wiped out the Pharisees as well.
Were they so far off that the Romans couldn't get to
No,
them?
so no, they came there.
Yeah.
The Romans did like
So the
a.
Romans could have extinct them,
Mhm.
and that's why they hid the scrolls.
Right, right. And going back to the Dead Sea Scrolls, so these are they were found in this in one of their communities at this place called Qumran by the Dead Sea. And what's really interesting is that the Dead Sea Scrolls have, dude, every like they have they prove the Old Testament canon that we have in like the Catholic Bible.
Right,
They had all the books, this community. And again, this was like 100, 200 years before Jesus.
right, right.
And they contain perfect copy, word by word books of Isaiah, the Psalms. Like it's pretty astounding.
So it was like a library,
It was
like
the
of
Old Testament. They
yeah.
had it all. The way we have the Old Testament, the Catholic Bible, they had it in their caves.
Wow. What exactly? And I could be off. What is the Sons of Light in the?
Yeah, I like how you said that. Yeah. So, and I think are you trying to make a Gnostic connection?
Well, I'm trying not to put my Gnostic knowledge and mix it in with the real
Mhm.
Catholic Church because I've studied so much Thomas and Philip and Gospel of Judas and Mary Magdalene, and the Nag Hammadi scrolls that they
Mhm.
found in Egypt.
Yep.
So I don't want to confuse them. But there is the title, the Sons of Light,
Yep.
in the Dead Sea Scrolls. What is that?
Yeah, so okay, so first and foremost, this community seems were apocalyptic. In other words, they thought that when the Messiah comes back, that's the end of the world,
Right,
right? It will usher in the new kingdom. Um, and they saw themselves as the sons of light, which is why they stress ritual and holiness and purity.
right, right, right.
For example, in their community, all of them were required to be celibate.
Yeah.
You
There
know,
were no women, obviously, in their community.
and no, and if there were, they would have been nuns. What we would call a nun
Right, right,
today,
right, right, right.
that's so odd. And there were women in there. But so they thought that there was going to be a decisive war against the sons of darkness. So these would have been the sons of Lucifer.
Right.
And by the way, these sons are mentioned in the Old Testament. The
The
sons of
Sons of
God.
Not the Sons of Light, though.
No, they associated themselves with the
Right,
righteous
right.
sons of light. So these would be the side on the now, but you can kind of see how the Gnostics will take this and kind of like expand upon it and how they will then say that there is a God of light and a God of darkness.
Yeah.
No Testament. Anyway, that's later. Um, but they practice regular ritual baptism to retain purity, everyday baptism, which
Wow.
is nuts because, and that's where we kind of think, was John the Baptist a scene?
So you're saying that they were going in the water every day. They were baptizing
Dude, yeah,
themselves.
ritual cleansing every single day. And they
So I,
follow.
I I think the Baptist was comes from the Essenes. He has to. It all makes sense. And in like a band or something, he went solo because
Yeah,
you had to.
no, and it makes sense because the Essenes, I always say it's not my theory. The Essenes were the prototype Catholics today. The only problem is that they jumped the gun. They went too ahead. And they
Yeah.
were so eager. Now, John the Baptist, this isn't you're like this. John the Baptist was crazy on fire preaching that the Messiah is coming. So he's kind of like in a scene. And get this, there's an interesting scene in the Gospels where John the Baptist then he sends these two followers to Jesus and he wants confirmation if the signs are happening. Because the idea is that he's kind of doubting Jesus.
Oh, wow.
Kind of gives more evidence. And that's just my theory, but gives more evidence that he maybe was in the scene.
Yeah.
And but he was the prophet of God.
Right, right. But when people said, "Are you the Messiah?" he always said no.
No, he made it clear
Shot
and
it down.
he
Yeah.
shot it down, but people wanted to give him that title.
Yeah.
And maybe they gave him the title teacher of righteousness.
I
And,
mean,
and
but the teacher of righteousness would have been 200 years before him.
but remember, they called him the Elijah reincarnated.
Oh, he would have been a reincarnation
So
of
they
that.
kept saying that. Why did they, and one more idea here to kind of Jesus told he stops and tells his followers, "Who do you say that I am?" One of his followers says Elijah. Another says that you're John the Baptist. And you get the famous thing where Peter says, "No, you are the Son of God, the Messiah."
Right,
So
right,
so people thought that these prophets became reincarnated.
right, right.
So, who knows? It's very mysterious.
Now, do you think John the Baptist knew his destiny? That
Oh yeah.
maybe he wasn't a scene. He got his knowledge from them. He was a teacher of righteousness. Like Judas knew his destiny, probably. He said, "I got to do this," and he broke off and he preached, and then he pissed off with King Herod, and they cut his head off, pretty much. And in the short, in the short version of it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So like I find him fascinating because we don't know much about him.
No, yeah, he's
You
he's
know.
mysterious, but once you start unpacking him, he's fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, and the Templars always fascinated me that they loved him equal to Jesus. I guess
Mhm.
maybe they knew something that he was a teacher of righteousness because they spent a lot of time in those caves.
Right.
And, they found Templar uh you know crosses and stuff in those caves when they discovered the Dead Sea Scrolls.
And it also going back to your controversial that idea that the Knights Templar, the medieval Knights Templar, it's controversial because I think they thought that John the Baptist was the true Messiah over Jesus. So I
Yeah.
heard about this. Now obviously these are Gnostic, conspiratorial, modern,
Yeah,
whatever.
that's what I always read, that
Right.
he was more important to them than Jesus.
Right. And
But
obviously
but they were monks, so they
yeah,
had a
I feel like I'm gonna push back on that. Maybe some, but no, they would have recognized. But
like
they saw themselves as making the path straight for the Lord because they were Knights Templar, so it would
yeah,
make sense.
so they would have to believe in Jesus first.
They have any Christian has to.
But they were also a secret society, that they had that mystical side about them. And they would have supposedly rituals where they would worship John the Baptist, and because they had his head.
I will say I feel
This
like a
is all
lot of that is
theory.
speculation. We don't know, right?
No, no, nobody will know. This is all, well, supposedly Philip the Fair, little pussy. you know, he said that. they were accused of worshiping a head,
Right,
which was
right,
Baphomet,
right,
or
right,
that
right.
head would have been John the Baptist.
Yeah, I mean it's a wonderful theory. And like I said, it actually makes sense why, because John the Baptist is the man that I feel like for those people that really read the Bible, John the Baptist does become sort of like a favorite because
Yeah,
his bravery, his mysteriousness, and how he recognizes the Messiah immediately before. And it actually, you know, it's funny going back to that righteousness, the teacher of righteousness aspect.
yeah,
Jesus comes to be baptized by him in the River Jordan, and I'm sorry, Judas. Um, John says, "What? Like you have to baptize me? I can't baptize you,"
yeah,
because he says, "I'm not." And before the Messiah that's coming, I'm not worthy to tie, even touch his sandals, nor tie them. That's how John viewed himself.
right, right.
So Jesus comes, and Jesus says, "You have to do it to fulfill all righteousness." So
Jesus said that.
yeah, so could Jesus have been the teacher of righteousness? Listen, man, maybe.
Well, you just blew my mind on that one.
Yeah. And it's possible that these people founded the community, the Essenes, to follow Jesus. The only problem is that they jumped ahead. Same with John. He started baptizing people like crazy. Dude, that wasn't supposed to happen. What John was, we have a fun theory. I'm not being blasphemous or anything. John was supposed to tell people, guys, be ready. Jesus is coming. Instead, he starts baptizing people like crazy.
Right,
And Jesus hadn't even baptized the waters yet.
right, right,
But
right. That was
so,
like his mission to be the baptizer.
but he jumped ahead. So, like the Essenes, and again, even more evidence that he maybe possibly was in a scene. And this community was created, but obviously they were wiped out. But it doesn't matter because then the Christianity will become on the rise. But they're the early,
Right.
in my opinion, they're the early Christians.
The early Christians, well, Christ was still alive.
200 years before, even
Right,
before.
right before it. That is so fascinating.
Mhm.
You know that because you think Christian is after Christ dies, you follow him.
Obviously, right. Because you follow the teachings of the apostles
Right.
and Jesus, who obviously there's a big theology there, but yeah, yeah.
Wow. It's just fascinating. It's unbelievable. I mean,
But yeah, we love John the Baptist, right? Like the more you look at him, he's so
oh yeah. Oh, he's so interesting. He's so fascinating,
very fascinating.
And give us his death. What was
Yeah.
the reasoning of why he was beheaded?
Yeah, so and that's another weird thing because it's funny because with his death, I find it odd because well, it makes sense, but what ends up happening was he gets beheaded on the order of the puppet king, King Herod Antipas. And King Herod Antipas was the king of the Jews and the king of Jerusalem.
Right.
Now, the problem is that no Jew saw him as king, and they saw him as a puppet king. They saw him, he was placed there by Rome. But what's really funny, Herod Antipas and his father Herod, who actually murders the babies in Bethlehem to find
Right.
Jesus,
When Jesus was, yeah, baby.
that these guys rebuilt the temple.
Right.
Right. Okay. So what ends up happening in the year AD 30, John gets beheaded by Herod Antipas at the order of his wife Herodias.
Right.
Now, what ends up happening, he marries or falls in love with Herodias. Now, Herodias was already in another marriage.
Right.
In the Jewish law, you cannot do that. That's committing adultery.
Right.
And this calls for stoning in the Mosaic law. So what ends up happening, and obviously she didn't get stoned because she's queen, and Harry will just like
Yeah.
wipe out anybody that has a problem with this. Anyway, unlawful marriage to Herodias. Now John apparently starts to call this out, and why? Little mystery there, but I could argue
He had balls, right? He didn't give a shit.
this dude went and said that your marriage is unlawful. You must repent. You must stop this sin and unjustfulness. And so he starts calling Herod out and Herodias
And
now.
this is like I remember seeing in movies, like literally in front of the temple. He's doing this shit.
Yeah, yeah. And so John was publicly rebuking Herod Antipas for divorcing his wife. So get this, sin upon sin, according to Jewish law, and to marry Herodias, the wife of his brother, who was still alive.
Right.
And they had a daughter, and this is important. The daughter, Salome. Now, was starting to hate John the Baptist, like hate him, because obviously he would hear his preaching.
Yeah.
And so they start to orchestrate a plot. Now, we find out that King Herod Antipas had a lustful lust for his stepdaughter, Salome. And so Herodias takes advantage of this. He, following a dance by her daughter Salome, remember the daughter with the brother, Herodias orchestrated the request of John's head on a platter because, and this is weird, but apparently I think there was more going on under the table, no pun intended. If you please the king on a certain day, you are granted one wish. And King Herod Antipas, obsessed already with Salome, said, anything for you. What do you want? And then Salome whispers in his ear, the head of John the Baptist. Now, it's really important. Herod Antipas didn't want to do it.
Right.
He was forced into this. So he does it and beheads John the Baptist, famously presenting um, his head on a silver platter to both women.
Wow.
So, and we get the famous death of the baptizer, and essentially Herod kills a prophet. So it's kind of funny.
Wow.
Yeah.
But he didn't want to do it. It was just because
Well,
of his.
that's the thing. He was forced to by these women.
Yeah.
And
Because the Baptists wouldn't shut up about
right, right,
them, like,
right.
going on and on.
He was calling them unlawful marriages out. And again, why? Why would John care so much about this? I mean, that's speculation.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like what? Well, they were
Uh,
sinners.
uh,
They were sinning.
of all
In his
things,
eyes.
did he care about their souls, right?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Wow. It's just it's like mind blowing when you think about all this stuff because like it's in the Bible, but it's not in the Bible. We're digging the esoteric side of things, and it's not always spoken this way, the way
Mm,
we're talking about it. When it's crazy. Um, I know you don't have a lot of time,
yeah, like a few minutes.
so I'm not gonna. I'm gonna. We'll talk about the shroud another time.
Yeah.
I'll just mention a couple figures. So leading up to Jesus, so John the Baptist is gone. Um, he dies. How old is Jesus? Like this is like a year or two before he gets crucified,
This would have
or
been maybe,
same year
so you would have been maybe Jesus both were in their 30s.
would have been like
2
exactly.
years maybe before
Oh,
Jesus died.
okay, a couple of years. Okay, so we'll lead up to Pontius Pilate. Tell
Mm.
us about him.
Oh
We
man.
all know, we all know about him, but like the real deal.
Yeah, so Pilate's another and this is another dude that it's funny because I don't know if you would agree with this, but um so a lot of people view him. Have you ever heard of this view that people view him as evil? As
Right.
the one that actually did kill Jesus? Have you ever heard about this?
Oh yeah, in the Bible. Well, when I interpreted the Bible as a kid, when you heard Pontius Pilate, well, he's the one that put Jesus on the cross.
I'm gonna tell
You
you
know,
right now, that's mistaken. That's a mistake.
okay, why? Why is
A
that?
major mistake. So Pontius Pilate,
Is it a mistake of interpretation, or is it
it's just that while people mistakenly say for example that Pilate killed Jesus and the Jews had nothing to do with it, and
right?
that he killed Jesus because he was a revolutionary Jewish figure.
Right.
In actuality, when you look between, well, first of all, Pilate, he was mysterious. Outside of the Bible, there's actually very little evidence. Some people even doubted his existence.
Right. Right.
There's a theory that Christians like made him up
Yeah.
or something like that. But apparently, he was the fifth Roman governor, prefect of Judea, right? So he was ruling over Jerusalem, under in
Now,
Rome.
wouldn't he be in the records though as that?
You know what's
As
odd? But you know what's odd? It's not there. And there's only, I told you this, that there's only a stone slab that says Pilate that was discovered at Jerusalem.
That's his grave marker.
Right, we don't know, but I will say he was already a disgraced governor by the time that
Right.
we meet him.
Right.
He's known, and the famous thing in the Gospels, dude, we get a lot of evidence of this guy. He's known as presiding over the trial of Jesus.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is, though, he, let's talk about him because he was serving under Emperor Tiberius and at Rome, and he had supreme judicial power. He managed tax collection, and security in Judea and Jerusalem specifically. Now, what's really interesting is that it comes a moment when he gets presented this man by the Pharisees, Jesus.
Yeah.
The Pharisees want his death, right? And so, as judicial leader,
Yeah.
he, like a judge, starts to find out, okay, you want him dead. Why? What has this man done exactly?
Right.
Okay, so the Pharisees do all these claims that he claims that he's the king of the Jews, that he's dangerous, that he is doing crimes against Rome, you know, try to anything because the
Yeah.
Jews want him dead. But
Yeah.
they could not have blood on their hands on the Sabbath, so they wanted Rome to do it.
Mm.
So Pilate becomes a scapegoat. And what ends up happening during these back and forths, Pilate discovers that Jesus is innocent. He has done nothing to be condemned.
Right.
And at one point, Pilate says to Jesus, if you have a kingdom, bring them here. Tell them to rescue you.
Yeah.
And Jesus says, and very mysteriously, that he says that my kingdom is not of this world.
Yeah.
And even if it did come, 100%, they would rescue me. But I chose this to be. And so he says, do what you have to do. And
Wow.
so Pilate, he's so stressed out, and the Pharisees get him. They say he claims that he is the king, our king. The Pharisee says we have no king but Caesar, essentially saying that only our only king is the king of Rome. Are you gonna go against the king of Rome? So Pilate goes like, "Oh, they got me because if I free this man, essentially I'm saying he's the king, and that in those days you cannot do that.
No, because the emperor was the Messiah, the
The
king.
supreme king, and so they got him." And so Pilate reluctantly does a ritual thing, symbolic thing, where he washes his hands and says, this is out of my hands. I'm clean of this. And he tries, I'm clean of this man's death. But go ahead, do what you must. So the Jews wanted him crucified.
Right.
Again, but my point with Pilate is that people mistakenly say that he's a villain. He's not.
Yeah.
He was, and again, this is to fulfill the scriptures, but he literally at that moment represents Rome,
Right.
Rome in crucifying, carrying out the crucifixion that the Pharisees wanted, that the own Jewish people at the time wanted of Jesus.
So the Pharisees killed Jesus.
I always argue, yeah, and everyone that hated him, every Jew, they
So
killed.
now, when the scholars debate over this, what is one side on Pontius Pilate's side? The other side is on.
Yeah, it's all over the place. Now, there's a movement. People have been accused of anti-Semitism because of putting all the blame on the Pharisees. I don't know if you
Right.
ever heard of this.
No, no, yeah, I heard about it.
So, the Passion of the Christ, for example, movie gets a bad flack because they portray the Pharisees as wanting the death of Jesus. And so people accuse any of this view as anti-Semitic. The problem is when you read between the lines, it actually makes sense why the Pharisees wanted the death of this man, because Jesus essentially was there was a famous scene, and I think it's in the Gospel of Matthew. Jesus calls the Jews, you brood of vipers, you teachers of wickedness. Like he just starts lashing out at
Yeah,
them.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And the Pharisees get so angry because they try every which way to make this man stump.
yeah.
According to Jesus, the Pharisees were a puppet people. They were fake people of God's righteousness.
Right,
He calls them vipers, and John the Baptist does something similar.
right,
He calls them teachers of wickedness and false teachers.
right.
And so it makes sense why they're like, all right, yeah, we need to put a stop to this man. But the only problem is that they couldn't do it on the Sabbath. Also, thou shalt not kill. And they could only stone people on temple grounds if they committed the blasphemous claim that they're God.
Oh, okay. So well, he didn't say he was God. He said he's the
No,
son of God.
Jesus, no, Jesus called himself the Son of Man. And that was a reference to the prophet Daniel.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's a whole nother story. But anyway, going back to Pilate, yeah, very mysterious, and we don't exactly have much evidence of what exactly happens to him after either. The only thing I can tell you is that his wife was haunted by she saw Jesus in her dreams, and she was troubled. And when she saw Jesus, when the Pharisees presented him over to Pilate, she pleaded with Pilate, "Do not do anything to this man. Please do not do anything to this man." And then
Right.
afterwards, she was one of the early converts to the teachings of Jesus and the apostles.
And did he eventually convert after?
Dude, that's the mystery. We don't know.
But they know his wife did,
I think 100, well, 80%, but I'm a true believer that, yeah.
and that would be going against Rome, though.
Well, dude, 100%. So obviously she left that life and joined the Christians. But what we do know is that there's, like you said, there's a disappearance from the records, which
Yeah.
explains why is he not in the records?
Yeah.
And then apparently there's also an interesting detail that in around like this is so funny, 3 years after essentially carrying out the crucifixion of Jesus, since he was there, um, so a high Roman official ordered Pilate back to Rome to face charges of cruelty and injustice. So he was kind of failing as being a just governor in Judea. And then a lot of people, Eusebius, the early historian, he's famous. He records that Pilate fell into disgrace and died by suicide on the orders of the Emperor Caligula. Caligula tell you are disgraced. You have to commit suicide because of your disgrace.
Wow.
Yeah.
And this is 3 years, 4 years after
Yep.
Jesus.
This would have been 3 years, according to Eusebius. And then there's another great legend. I love this from the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, the Ethiopian Church, that
Mm.
suggests that he and his wife became Christians.
And went to Ethiopia.
And that I'm not sure, but there's a belief in the Ethiopian Orthodox Church that he and his wife became Christians.
Now, Ethiopia is very fascinating
That's another, yeah,
because you know where I'm going with this.
yeah,
And they believe it. They believe they have the Ark of the
which is
Covenant.
which is fascinating. Yeah, yeah.
And it's like watched 24 hours a day.
That's what
And
they say. Yeah.
I don't know if there's only one priest has seen it. I think in like 100 years, every 100 years, there's a different.
I saw something that a British, I don't know if he was a historian or somebody, he claims he got access and was confirming. But yeah, very mysterious, right? Because yeah, the Orthodox, and they were one of the only ones that had the Book of Enoch in their canon.
They did. They had the
Mhm.
Book of Enoch.
Mhm.
Now, if they have the Ark, why won't they share that?
That's the myth. My dad says that too. My dad said if they had the Ark, why? And my
Because
dad,
anybody can say we have something behind.
right.
I obviously they built a church on it and stuff, and like bring in the Pope.
I have a theory they might have something. Maybe they don't have
Right.
the Ark. They don't have the Ark. I don't think so.
Now, what does the Pope feel about this, or the Vatican about the Ethiopians?
Oh, and totally disproven. No evidence.
They're
No,
they're, they're just
they
like
don't have a
whatever.
position. They haven't never. The church never has had made a public official what happened to the Ark. Nope. And what's interesting is that now they say that in a way that the Ark has been fulfilled, and Jesus's mother Mary is the new Ark of the Covenant because Jesus is the law of Moses, the commandment. He is the sweet bread
Right.
inside this Ark, Mary. So they, if it's found, what I do know is that the Vatican says if it's found, it's going to be an amazing finding that's going to prove that the Old Testament happened.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the Templars had some evidence that they had the Ark.
Yep, yep. And they
They.
built something in Ethiopia, the Templars.
Oh yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
And apparently, according to them, the Ark was kept there, which leads to the Ethiopian theory.
Yeah.
because they
which
found some sort of like table that matches the dimensions. It's a fascinating thing.
well, there's a what's the word I'm looking for? I don't
And
want to say.
obviously, the Nazis had it too, according to
Oh, of
English
course the
history.
Nazis had it.
They had it. I'm
Yeah.
convinced.
Of course.
There's no way that these people
Just
conquered without.
um
They had some sort of power.
oh yeah. No, there's a like what's the word I'm looking for? Like when you build something, like when you're
Altar?
no, like something that teaches you to build something.
Architecture, blueprints.
Okay, so in the Bible or the Gnostic Bible or something I read, there's a blueprint on how to build the ark.
Oh,
You ever hear it
dude. What? No, it's in the Bible.
in the
And
Bible?
actually, there's a famous church. I saw it on The Unexplained, where they built a replica of the Bible as down to every measurement, down to what was included based on the writings of the Torah and
Wow.
Leviticus. Yeah, yeah. And it's mysterious because the cherubims, everything was real.
Now, but it doesn't have power. It's just a copy.
If someone makes it, yeah, of course, because what made it have power? This is interesting. Do you know what made it have power? First of all, what was inside the ark? What did they carry?
I'm
Little
gonna
Bible,
stumble drunk.
little Old Testament quiz.
I don't
Okay.
remember.
Ready? The two stone tablets, the Ten Commandments
Oh,
inside.
The Ten Commandments, right? Okay.
The manna that apparently God provided the Israelites in the desert. A mysterious, sweet, like people call it bread. People say that sometimes it looked like wafers, kind of like Eucharist kind of thing.
Eucharist. Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
That's today, but they kept that in there like a whole bowl. And then the staff of Aaron, which bloomed flowers and wouldn't stop. So
Right, right.
the flowers went out, more would bloom. Inside. Okay, they closed it. Now, the next thing that made it have power is that apparently, when the Israelites, specifically Moses, spoke to God, God would come between the cherubims, and that was the seat of God. So, and God said, You are not to handle these. Remember those instructions about handling the ark. If you fail to do this, right, you will be struck down.
Right.
Right.
And people died holding the
Yes,
ark.
yes,
Yeah, yeah.
because it was such an object. You had to be ritually, like going back to your scenes, you had to be ritually cleansed and purified. You had to have certain clothing. And by the way, only the tribe of Levi and Aaron were allowed to be priests so it's fascinating. And then that's what made it have power. And
And
so
God made the ark. This
God,
is made from God. He just gave it,
God
just showed
provided,
up.
God provided the blueprints and measurements and instructions for Moses to build the ark.
Okay, Moses built the ark from the blueprints in the Old Testament, and then they put the staff of Aaron and
The two commandments that God with his hands wrote and removed for Moses and the sweet bread of the manna.
wow. And that's why in the movies when people touch, was it in Raiders of the Lost Ark?
It
People
was
would touch it.
they open it and again the
They-
seed of God comes and just melts their faces.
I love that. I love that scene.
Does it. But I'll be honest with you, that's what happened to a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah,
Just God for some odd something struck them down and fried them to dust, like literally
yeah.
annihilated them.
Because you had to be only.
You had to when God gives you instructions in the Old Testament, you do not mess with those instructions.
So it's these Ethiopian dudes have it. I mean, they're gonna be fried. You can't touch the friggin' thing. Like that theory goes out. Uh,
How
uh,
did you get it
now,
there?
even the Templars, if
They,
the Templars had it
they,
too.
they would have. I would wonder how they did it. Unless, here's a theory though, they are following the instructions. They have to be purified. They have to follow the
See, the Templars would know that.
and those Ethiopian priests, which would make sense why only certain people would come in.
Right, yeah, they would
It would
know
have
that
to
from
be
the.
someone ideally celibate because you could not have relations with your wife. If you did, you had to do the ritual cleansing and fasting. Like it was a whole instruction. Um,
So the English
yeah, I gotta find out about that. Maybe on the part two, who that guy was who claimed that he went in there, he got special access, and he claims that
why would they let him?
maybe we could do in part two. I'll do. Oh, you can write it, or I'll find it, and we'll talk about it.
Yeah, it's just
Right.
insane. And then one
So,
last
so
thing
one
before
last
we
one.
go. So we covered Pontius Pilate, which led I drifted into the Ark, which is cool. Barabbas. Give a little
Oh man.
background on Barabbas.
Yeah, man. So Barabbas. Let me ask you first. Who's Barabbas?
He is the man next to Jesus, and he's the first person to go into heaven.
Oh, where'd you get the heaven thing?
Jesus told him, you will go to heaven," right? If some,
Oh
I'm
no, no,
paraphrasing.
no, no. That's the thief.
Oh, that wasn't Barabbas?
No.
Oh, okay, then I'm off on that. I'm way
I'll
off.
talk about it in the next episode or
Yeah, well, we can stop here
yeah.
because it's probably going to be really long,
Let's
right?
pick it up with Barabbas because yeah, I got a lot and also like what happens to him after.
But he was so wait, so the thief. I'm mixing up my okay. The
Yeah,
thief.
so okay, ready. So, really quick, and we'll conclude here. So, okay, ready. So, during the presiding the trial, Pilate, in order to rescue Jesus, again, you think he's a bad man. He's not. He tries everything to beat the Pharisees' wit, but the Pharisees outwit him in the end because they had already hatched this execution plan way before. They already beat Pilate. Anyway,
Right.
and again, if he frees Jesus, you're saying that he is king. And that means that Tiberius is not king. This is king. And so now, Pilate, because you can't do that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so in order to save him, a zealot that was arrested, a very violent one, Pilate did this thing in order to get some peace with the Jewish people on the Passover, would free one of their own.
And they freed Barabbas. That's where I'm
Yeah.
getting my.
And
That's where I'm
they're
getting
like, and he was
what's
so
up.
sure that they were going to free Jesus.
Yeah.
He didn't do anything. There's nothing that he's done.
Right.
And but the Pharisees told the people, they paid the people to yo, 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 we free Barabbas. Barabbas comes out and he's a violent criminal. He's a zealot. You need to understand that the zealots were assassins. They were
Yeah.
violent. They would be like
Well, Judas was supposedly a zealot. Is that true?
Judas Iscariot?
Yeah. Wasn't he a part of? No,
No.
he was not connected to the zealots.
No, no. In Jesus's group, you had Simon the zealot, former zealot.
Simon.
And
Simon was the former.
he
Okay.
was another story. Yeah, yeah. So what ends up happening is Pilate says, "All right, who do you guys want, Barabbas or Jesus?" And he's like, "Oh, okay, they're gonna pick Jesus because they don't want this violent criminal up in the street."
Yeah.
He's shocked when everyone yells, "Barabbas, Barabbas, free Barabbas!" And Pilate's like, "Oh no!" And they knew, and even like they knew he was a violent criminal. That's why he was arrested. He was a
Yeah.
zealot. He
Yeah.
pretty much was like Romans, and like
Yeah. Yeah.
he would be like the Al Qaeda and ISIS terrorists today.
Right. Right. Right.
Right?
Right.
Okay, they free him. And then and they're like, and then Jesus like Pilate's like, man, okay, free him. And Barabbas goes and he's freed. Now, what's really interesting, now, I don't know if you knew about Barabbas. His name is fascinating. His name, you know what his name means?
No.
His name means son of the Father.
Wow.
Son of the Father Jesus and Barabbas son of the Father. And they chose the wrong son of the Father.
Wow.
Really massive irony.
That's insane.
Yeah. So Barabbas goes. Now the two thieves. Now when Jesus gets now Rome carries out the order because the Pharisees and Jews want his crucifixion.
Hmm.
Pilate says, "Okay, fine, but I'm free of this crime. But go ahead." Now on that day, two other people were also going to be crucified. These are the two thieves, the good thief and the bad thief. That's the one you're referring to.
Right. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why I mixed it up with Barabbas. I don't know. I always found Barabbas interesting that they let him go,
Hmm.
and but he was kind of they paid the crowd or whatever. They told the crowd to say Barabbas, Barabbas, like you said.
No, and likely this is shocking. His name was Jesus Barabbas.
Wow.
Now, that's another shocking thing. So you had Jesus, God saves. Now, this is a big irony. Yeshua in Aramaic means God saves.
Right.
Now, it's technically not a name, it's an action. God saves. They chose the wrong son of the Father over the one who's going to save, the true son of the Father.
This is in the Bible.
Well, yeah, I'm giving the explanation,
Yeah.
the theology behind it.
Holy shit.
Yeah, dude. And Barabbas, I love the Passion the Christ portrayal. And in my head and my spirit, I always view Barabbas as violent and scary looking man.
Yeah.
And think about it, to be an assassin, you're
Yeah,
close
yeah,
to a
yeah.
serial killer. You're
Yeah,
trained to be you would look like Manson or
yeah, 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 yeah.
you had look, I mean, those Al Qaeda guys too, those Taliban,
It's
remember
fucking scary.
they're
Yeah.
scary. I remember those videos, they frightened me as a kid when
Yeah.
anyway, so that's Barabbas. Now he's back on the streets. So, the people chose wrong and he's just gonna kill more people in the streets.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
I mean, so what was I gonna say? So they free Barabbas, and
Yeah.
what happens to Barabbas? That's like I always want to know what happens to these people.
Dude, total mystery. We do not know the fate of Barabbas. We don't know.
Nobody wrote
Yeah,
about them.
I'm
Nobody.
gonna try to see if I can unearth some stuff, maybe for the next episode.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find some stuff up on the mystics and see if I can find what happened to him. But
Now the really cool thing you said, Son of God
Mhm.
and Jesus Barabbas. This is in the Bible, but
Yep.
you're interpreting it from the Bible. Like
Yeah.
this, the priest would they say this in Mass?
They should. They
I
should.
I don't remember
How amazing is that? They should.
because like during
Me,
Easter Mass, they don't
no,
say that.
they
I
should.
don't remember hearing it.
Get this. Me and my brother, and shout out to Tobias. Remember Toby? He's
Yeah. Oh
getting
yeah.
really
I
into the
love that
Bible.
dude.
He would love this talk. He was shocked when I was explaining to him, and he had his same reaction. He's like, "Whoa, dude, why are priests not talking about this?" I know they
I
should.
mean, I would have remembered this if an Easter Mass or
No, Cheech,
you
when I
know.
discovered it, I got goosebumps. Barabbas means son of the Father, Jesus Barabbas. So essentially, they're saying, free that son of the Father, not that one. The people wanted this, they chose wrong.
I would love to talk to a priest about that
I know. Maybe
and
we can
view.
have a maybe we can have a priest on the show.
I could probably get one. I could
Maybe
get
we can make it happen,
a good
and we
friend of
can
mine
like
as a priest.
ask questions and have his
Yeah,
insight and input. Yeah.
because maybe they're told by the Vatican not to say that.
Oh, that I don't know. Yeah, it's odd, right? You would think because this is the first time you're hearing this, right?
And this is esoteric. This is
Oh,
so
trust me,
beyond.
I've only had this conversation with my brother, like I said, Tobias, because he posted this interesting Passion of the Christ scene with Barabbas. Now, let me just talk about that scene. Now, if you remember Passion of the Christ, Mel Gibson's,
Oh, I'll only watch that one time
right.
only.
There's the member of a scene where Barabbas comes out. He looks crazy. His eye is like kind of taken out. He has a
Yeah,
lazy eye or something, and he looks crazy. When he gets freed, he's like, like, ah, like he's like a crazy guy. But then get this, the real actor, he claims he converted to Christianity. Why? When he saw Jim Caviezel Jesus, he said that he saw Jesus, and there's a scene where he looks and quickly he said that was him because he was scared. He saw Jesus in that moment. So that's true acting, dude.
that what's his name? Who played Jesus?
Jim Caviezel.
Ugh, that movie is like watching a reality show.
Oh no, yeah, dude. And
You
it's
know,
funny, can I tell you one more story? So, I saw it when I was in third grade. So my dad took me when we were little because my
yeah,
dad said we got to see this. It's important.
yeah,
I, yeah, obviously for me, it's game changing.
oh yeah.
And it just, when you watch it, I swore I can only watch it once. Now I've seen it in my lifetime 5 times.
Wow.
I can't, and obviously you can't watch it too much.
Hard watch. It's a hard watch.
And I hate it when people accuse, like, they're like, why all the violence? Then you don't get it. Like that's what people, then you don't get it because that's what Jesus did in order to save us from sin.
Yeah. And I've heard priests and scholars say it was probably worse than that. And
Oh, just based on the Shroud of Turin studies.
exactly.
Much you have no idea. And maybe I could talk about the mystic Blessed Anne Catherine Emmerich's visions of what occurred. Heartbreaking.
Well, there's a couple scenes that get me that they're even hard to talk about. The one is Mary watching her son up on
Oh
that
gosh.
cross.
That scene is just master class and
And even tear up, even talking about when she's going in her mind, the visions when he's a little boy.
Oh gosh, that's
And she runs to help him. Like, oh,
heartbreaking.
it's so emotional.
So that Mel Gibson did such a great, that's
Oh
one
my
of the
God.
greatest uses of flashbacks I have ever seen.
That is so emotional. And like when you have a child
Yeah.
and you start to think like, okay, little boy, he falls, she picks him up or whatever. And when you see, God forbid, your son or daughter
You
suffering.
want to run like Mary, and you know what's fascinating? What's really that scene is should be mandatory. Even if you can't watch the movie, you need to watch that scene.
Yeah,
But Mary goes to run after Jesus, right? It's so heartbreaking.
so
And you
sad.
know what Jesus does? Like literally, he's puffed, he's bleeding, and like his eye is swollen. He says to his mother, don't worry." I'm paraphrasing. Like, don't worry, I make all things new, and gets back up again. Like, dude, what powerful inspiration. That would be sort of like the son thing to your father. Don't worry, dad,
Yeah,
I got this. Like,
yeah.
mom, don't.
And there's that one scene when he's on the cross and then being mocked and everybody and stuff, and he says to God, Father, forgive these people. Like
Are they doing?
that, I mean, when you want Christ consciousness, when you're pissed,
Yeah,
people
just do that, dude. Honestly, but you know how there's do thy will. That
yeah,
helps me, dude. I say, oh, forgive them for they do not know what they do, and it calms me. I'm like, oh, like yeah,
yeah.
that's a
And
great Christ consciousness.
when we get pissed off at certain things that go on in our life, that's
Dude,
a joke that really shouldn't piss us off,
right,
compared to, you know, that is a great way to say, look what this dude went through. And he's
right.
saying, God, forgive them.
Yeah,
Like, if somebody put me up on a cross and Rome, I'd be a motherfucker. What the fuck, you fucking asshole,
dude,
But Jesus,
that's like some Monty Python, man. It's
yeah.
so funny.
you know. But Jesus is like, forgive them. Imagine,
Stunning,
like, it's
stunning.
insane.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's like the way, and then I love Satan in that movie.
It's one of the greatest portrayals of Satan. I don't care what anybody says.
Oh, it's
And,
creepy.
and it's crazy because when I was in third grade and poor dad took us to see this, now I knew Satan's portrayals from like cartoons, movies.
Yeah, yeah,
I always knew that horn guy,
yeah.
tail. I saw the Passion of Christ Satan and I got goosebumps.
Oh,
And me, my young 7-year-old, I was like,
I'm getting goosebumps right now
dude,
thinking of that person.
dude, I said,
'Cause
that's him.
the way I might not even sleep tonight now thinking
No,
about
no,
it.
yeah,
Jesus,
I'm getting scared now.
now the way
No,
she,
keep Theo. We need Theo close by.
Theo, wait, Theo, wait,
Get over here, brother.
we need Pio,
Thanks, yo,
and
Theo.
then and hold up, we need without Pio, you need the Clash,
Oh, yo, I need London calling by me and Theo.
Pio. um, but what was I? Oh, when did I do it? Sorry, 1 second.
Nah, and while you speak, one of my favorite scene, straight off the bat, in the Garden of Gethsemane, you see Jesus preparing, and he's like shivering and like frightened, and he's getting a taste of what's gonna happen to him. He starts
Yeah,
sweating and bleeding,
yeah,
like what Satan appears to him, and I love sort of like, like, do you think he's really gonna save you? Like kind of talking snake-like, and you see the serpent come out. You know,
yeah.
it's just what a phenomenal scene.
I know. And the way the ambiguous, you don't know if it's a man or a
Yeah,
woman. It's a
purposely. That's
creepy,
evil. You don't
yeah,
know what face it has. It
yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
offer the comfort of a woman nor the security of a masculine.
That's a good point. That's a good point. And Mel, I think it's probably one of the greatest movies ever.
I,
It's the greatest movie ever made.
And you know me, I'm a movie buff too as well. Like apart from
Yeah,
music, I place it in my top five.
yeah.
Must watch.
I mean, as a kid, I grew up watching Jesus of Nazareth.
Which itself is that's another powerful one.
It's really it's great. It's
It's like one
amazing.
of the most brilliant versions. Yeah.
That's my childhood.
I think
Um,
Jesus of Nazareth and Jesus Passion of the Christ are the two greatest things that you can watch. And
but the Passion of the Christ is like Jesus of Nazareth next level. I
next
mean,
level.
like
Times 100. Talking like everything.
what Mel Gibson did is
Brilliant.
he made like a reality TV show
He
of
did.
what would happen. Like that's the closest we're gonna ever
He
get to see.
he filmed the shot of turn.
Yeah, he did.
That's
He did.
essentially what he did, which is
Yeah,
insane.
I
That
know.
man on the shot of turn, that's a story.
Now, what about the woman who wiped Jesus's face, and there
Oh,
was that Veronica, I believe,
Veronica,
and
yeah.
then there was a
And
little mini
the
shroud.
veil, they still have it. The veil of Montepello. It's in
Yeah,
Montepello, Italy, and you can see
yeah.
the face and the face of Christ. It's stunning.
Now that's like a mini shroud,
It is, yeah.
and
Yeah.
basically she wiped his face, and then
So the story is so Veronica, who experienced a miracle from Jesus, Veronica was the woman that there's an idea that there was a woman that was suffered from internal bleeding. Pretty much,
now this isn't Saint Veronica though.
this is Saint
It's
Veronica.
Saint Veronica. Okay,
Saint
okay,
Veronica. Yeah, I love that name, Veronica. But
beautiful.
start Jesus, she goes, she's the woman that says, if I could only touch one little stitch of his fabric, I'll be cured. Manages to brush Jesus, and then Jesus says, who touched me? Right? I felt a power get out of me. And pretty much says to the woman, your faith has saved you. Now, the same woman comes back, sees Jesus fall, right? And at this point, think about it, crown of thorns, bleeding, sweating, right? He has so much blood. People forget about this.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Veronica, at this moment, gets a cloth and I think one of her mantles and wipes his face and Jesus gets the cloth and does this, gives her back the cloth. And then Veronica sees an perfect imprint of his face. And Veronica saw this, and there's a legend that she hid this veil as a treasure. And this became an important relic in the early Christian community.
Now
And
who
that's how
found?
they knew, and that's how they, and get this, is wild. That's how they knew what Jesus looked like because of that veil.
Because it was before the shroud.
Way before the
Right,
shroud
right.
existed,
Yeah,
but the true relic, you look at those paintings of Jesus at that time, how
yeah.
did they come about? The veil. That's a theory.
Who found the veil? It would have been before the Templars.
There's a big story with that. I mean, we can do an episode on it if you want. It was just passed along eventually, and that's a good question. I would have to look more into it, but eventually it reached the city of Montepello. I think it's Montepello in Italy, and it's in that.
Because for a while the Templars had the shroud,
Yeah, I believe you. Yeah,
and they
we should
had
do an episode on this, the Shroud and the Veil.
and they had a bunch of true. They had a piece of the true cross they always carried into battle.
They pretty much took everything that Constantine's mother Helena had rescued. I think they like took everything.
They found it, and it would make sense that they're under Solomon's um, temple. That's where the stables were,
And ironic, today people want to dig in that same area. They
but they
cannot.
can't.
They can't because now the Muslims have built their sacred mosque on top of it, and it would cause so much political chaos.
I know. Because it's the same spot where Muhammad.
Descended apparently.
Yeah, yeah. That's the whole man. It's just it's insane. Like I'm mind fucked right now from this whole thing. It's like
So your mind that from the Prague stuff, dude. Our minds are so, uh,
dude. Oh
dude,
my God. Yeah,
dude.
people out there. We just did the best prog drummers. Uh,
Cerebral stuff, progressive rock,
and now we're talking about some
rel-
heavy duty esoteric
religion,
Bibles.
like everything.
Saint Veronica, the Templars, Barabbas. This is insane. It's like a prog rock album.
Yeah,
The.
this is the Bible files.
Yeah. So we'll stop.
Yeah, well, the part one, and we'll continue part two.
Yeah, because like the shroud will be a whole
Oh
other
gosh, yeah,
episode.
and I'll do my research on the veil just quick, and then on there was something else I wanted to look into.
Barabbas.
Rabbits.
What happened? What
Let me
happened to
see. Let me
Barabbas?
see. I have some books on the visions of some saints, so I'll look into what I unearth.
So they would have visions of Barabbas. Some
Hmm.
of these saints.
Hmm.
Um. You should be teaching religion
No, dude, I
in
know.
a freaking college,
It's funny.
bro. Like I'm
Dude,
learning so much. Like
I'm telling you,
it's
that's why
insane.
my brother said that too. Like I should be
Like the
teaching.
way I know the base ins and outs, you know religion like the
No,
back of your hand. You know.
I
Thank
love
you
it,
for your knowledge, man.
dude.
It's
Dude, thank
like
you, brother. That's a high compliment.
I mean I know some, but like I know the esoteric stuff
Yeah,
and I
that's your expertise. The esotericism,
yeah
Gnosticism.
yeah
I'm more of the expert of like the actual stuff and like the context, the historical,
right
the theology, the spirituality, the who's who.
yeah.
You have any questions of the Bible? I'm your dude. If you
Oh, I
can't find a
know.
priest, I'm your dude.
And oh yeah, I would love to talk to a priest about
Imagine
that.
getting on. Maybe we can make it happen.
Like the whole, what you said the name Barabbas and Jesus, why is that not brought up in a Catholic mass,
I'm telling you.
especially during
And
Lent?
the only reason why I discovered it was one of my books, and I got goosebumps. I did not, and I started making these connections.
Have you researched that? I wonder if you Google it or something, will
Oh
it
yeah,
give
yeah,
you
you can
anything?
Google it. I read it in books since I read a lot of like for example, I'm reading
No,
this
but
book. Oh,
but why it's not said?
oh, why people don't say it? I don't know. It should be said because it's gonna make people like really think and believe.
Yeah, I think I think maybe the Vatican it for some reason blocks it. You know what I mean? For some oddball reason, like they were after Pio. They were trying to stop him. You
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
but dude, yeah, this has been in fucking insane trip, man. Oh my God. We've been at this since 6:45. It's 10:30. It's almost 11 o'clock.
Like
We've been
our
doing
part-time job here, man.
I know. But yeah, I know you gotta get up to teach tomorrow. But thank you, Manny. This was amazing. I'm gonna mark it off at
Yeah,
Barabbas,
yeah, and we'll
and then
continue it. Yeah, this is our new series, Esoteric Files, the Bible Files.
yes. All right, man. Have a great night. Thank you for your knowledge.
Cheech, man, always a pleasure, brother, man. Nanu, nanu.
Not new, brother.
That's gonna be
All
the
right.
official what is that? I love the classic album review guy. He always says my I'll leave you with my closing salvo. Nanu,
Yes.
nanu.
Not new, not new.
All right,
All right.
dude.
All
Have a
right,
good night,
brother.
brother.
All right, man. Take care.
You too.